Be with you because today we will be learning about the most dynamic chess gambit in the world. It may have lost its popularity through the ages, but I believe its intention is timeless. What a way to start as well. Welcome everyone. Good to have you here. Good to see you. And just one thing, Calvin. What I intended to say is I had prepared Spassky games. No need to no need to keep quiet. What I actually meant to say is we'll be taking a look at Spassky's games, and he will indeed be the star of today's show, and I will only be the conductor thereof. Good afternoon, Giant Pixels. Good to see you. Hi, everyone. Hi. Hi. Good to see you guys. Oh my goodness. Amazing. Alrighty. I do have a few notes on the opening, and of course I don't have them committed to memory, so I'm going to read them mostly. Right. Of course, the King's Gambit is a spin-off of the series The Queen's Gambit. I'm just joking. But it's characterized by the moves e4, e5, f4. I'm good. How are you? f4. And I do know that this opening was from the Romantic era, because Romantic chess is a thing. If you were to look up different Romantic openings, you'll see an array of openings. I believe the French is also considered a Romantic opening, and the King's Gambit. What I really like is that in the notes, and I quote, it says, "It's one of the spiciest, most aggressive openings and gambits in chess." Of course, you want to use it as a surprise weapon rather than as your main opening in your repertoire, because if you're constantly playing a dubious gambit, your opponent can prepare really well against you. But if you play something solid, and they're spending an hour and a half on that kind of preparation, and then finally you decide to play the King's Gambit out of nowhere, it's going to throw your opponent off, and maybe they don't have the preparation they wish they had. Alright, so it also says that this opening was played by the likes of Hikaru Nakamura. I don't know when. Well, he does play the Bong Cloud, so I'm not surprised. Nigel Short, and of course, our star of today, Boris Spassky. Spicy chess, of course. Do the king and queen stay close together in romantic openings? Oh, that is so sweet. And Bobby Fischer actually once said, "In my opinion, the King's Gambit is busted. It loses by force." And we are going to prove Bobby Fischer wrong today. We are going to prove to Bobby Fischer that we can win with the King's Gambit. Alright, so today we will be looking at a game, or a couple games actually. The first one is an opening in the King's Gambit, or like a variation in the King's Gambit called the Gaga Gambit. Like Lady Gaga, but Gaga Gambit, which sacrifices not only the f4 pawn, but goes ahead and plays g3 as well. Almost like the Mora Gambit, but more on the king's side, more riskier. Very crazy. I'm sure it would be okay to play in a bullet game. I would be very nervous to play it in a classical game. And then we'll take a look at the Immortal game last. It's played in 1851. But in between, we're looking at Spassky's amazing game. Spassky played in the Candidates. He won the Candidates tournament with the King's Gambit, playing against Yasser Sirvan in the last round, I think. And then also he beat the world championship champion Karpov in a game playing the King's Gambit. So that was quite nice. We're going to take a look at that too. Alright, I do want to make sure that we have all the notes possible before we jump into this. After Boris Spassky beat Bobby Fischer with the King's Gambit at Mar del Plata in 1960, Fischer analyzed the opening more deeply. 1 year later, in 1961, came up with an article called a bust to the King's Gambit, in which he claimed to refute it. He wrote, "My opinion, in my opinion, the King's Gambit is busted, loses by force." His suggestion for black was the third move d6. d6. The article became widely popular. Alrighty, interesting. Well, Simon Williams has made a video about it. I think GM, what's his name? Damien Lemos made a video. So there are plenty of videos out there if you do want to look into the King's Gambit a little more. Obviously, what we do in an hour is more of an introduction to said openings. There's no way we can cover everything in 1 hour, but we do get to spend a bit of time together. He had a refutation, apparently. Yo, Gaga. What time is it in SA? It's 3 p.m. And the reason I look like I just woke up is because I took a good old nap. And naps are really good. Hey, Chas Chopin, how are you? How are you? Alrighty. Okay, so that is enough of the notes. Let's jump straight into the game. So the first one I want to show you is the Gaga Gambit. I think the only reason I wanted to show you this is not only to wake you up to the possibilities of the King's Gambit, but also to show you how wild and careless it can actually be. So let's begin. Are you doing more lessons per week? I was filling in for someone yesterday evening, so it's only just one masterclass and one lecture on CoChess and Chess24. Do you prefer Twitch or YouTube chats? Both of you are amazing. So if e4, e5, fine. f4. And already the engine doesn't like the move, but we do. So f4, and now it is the King's Gambit. What is a gambit? A gambit is giving up material in the beginning of the game to get some kind of compensation, central control, development, or an attack, depends. So here, black decides to accept, and g3. And the engine feels even less about this move. So engine says, no, it's -2. It's so much better for black. But here, well, after g3, black decides to play d5. d5. It's amazing. Sarah singing the Gaga song. Hi, Screws. And Pipettes, looking fresh. Leave me alone. White is lost. Well, we'll see. Somehow white might escape this. So d5, d3. I don't know how I feel about d3. I mean, if you're going to commit to a move like g3, you kind of have to go all in. There's no way you can play a move like d3. These are passive moves. Out of 4 moves, all the moves were pawn moves. And yeah, anyway. Taking on g3, bishop to f4. I feel like there's something here. Black is winning for sure. What is the best move for black? I'm going to have a sneak peek. Okay, I had a sneak peek. What is the best move for black? What is the point of playing the King's Gambit? Number 1, catching your opponent off guard. Number 2, surprising your opponent. Those are synonyms. It's fine. Number 3, probably just encompassing the general aggressive nature of the opening may suit your style of play. And since it is a gambit, it may offer you a lot of tactical possibilities. So there are a number of reasons why someone would play the King's Gambit. I know someone who committed like 10 years of their life to studying the King's Gambit, and I intentionally played into their King's Gambit line. Instead of playing the French, I played e5. I played the accepted. After 6 moves, they blended a bishop. So there are ups and downs, or should I say pros and cons, to playing into someone's opening preparation. First of all, they always play the same line, so maybe you can find some flaws in that line. Or number 2, they outplay you in the opening and there's nothing you can do about it. E takes D. D takes E. Exactly, chess to open. But do you feel that associating the negative numbers with black sends the wrong message? No. Think about it like this. 0. 0 point. Okay? 0.0. If you go up, you are, the bar becomes white, right? Or light. And if you go up, it's associated with the white pieces. If it goes down, it's associated with the black pieces. So it's got nothing to do with sending messages, because if you were to go there, then I would argue, there's a ton of things I could argue, but I won't go into that. Hey, Pawn Watch Astoria, good morning. Oh wow, so not good morning to me then, okay. I play King's Gambit all of the time, but never know the Gaga movements. Well, now you know the Gaga movements, because it's absolutely Gaga. Should try all types of chess openings, why not? I suppose. Queen h4 is interesting, but here the move is right. Chess to open found it. It is capturing. Perpet needs to be banned if there are any bots in chat. Thank you so much, Lucifer. Alright, so taking knight c3. So he's just given up 3 pawns for nothing. Developing his pieces. At least there's development, but not worth the 3 pawns that he's lost. Knight f6. I'm sure there's better here. Bishop b4 is suggested. Interesting. Just to show you the absurdity of this opening. What is going on? Wow, alrighty. I don't know why we're still looking at this, but we are. What is going on? Knight g6. Wow. Knight g6 is a power move. Knight f6 is a follow-up power move. What is going on? This is amazing. If queen takes, bishop takes d5, king goes to f8, and rook h8. Mate. That is insane. What is going on? This is amazing. I love this. That's it. Rook takes queen, it's over. It's over. That was a wow game. My brain just exploded. Mine too. Go ban yourself. This looks like my blitz game. No one knows what is happening. Fair enough. Sarah, he seems to be very ungrateful. But you know what? You'll always be loved and cherished by someone like me. It's very insane. Okay, so the next game we're going to take a look at, and now we're going to see some real chess, because the Gaga Gambit was mostly just to wake you up and be like, okay, wow, what? Is between Boris Spassky and Anatoly Karpov in 1982, and it was titled Beating the World Champion in 1982. In 1972, Bobby Fischer beats Boris Spassky in the World Championship match. Bobby Fischer then disappeared, and Anatoly Karpov became world champion by default because Bobby just refused to pitch up to the World Championship match. And years later, former world champion played against current world champion Anatoly Karpov, and he won using the King's Gambit. So this is pretty cool. Pretty cool. You got here just in time for the real chess smarts guy? Well, woke pixels. Are you awake? Oh. I'm not cranky. You're cranky. Do you follow Karpov on Instagram? I didn't know Karpov had Instagram. I was going to play in a tournament called Djerba Masters in Tunisia this year. It's really close to just taking a flight there. It was pre-corona and everything. Judith Polgar was there, Anatoly Karpov was there. It was a really great event from what I saw. Unfortunately, wasn't able to play. No one knows the outcome of the game. Takes one to know one. Alrighty. If you want to eliminate blunders, I would say work on your tactics. What do I think of Karpov's style? Well, let's take a look. I would say daring. Dare I say daring. Alright, so Boris Spassky played white pieces against Anatoly Karpov, but we'll see. e4, e5, f4, captures. So a lot of the time I'm seeing the King's Gambit accepted, and what Bobby Fischer has recommended after knight f3 is the move d6. And I'm sure after the article went public, people must have read it and thought, well, if Bobby Fischer agrees that d6 is the best move on move 3, then it must be. Bishop to c4, h6. Well, I suppose black is just stopping all of white's immediate threats, especially with the pressure on f7. What I'm hoping to assume here is knight is kind of shouldered. It cannot go to e5, it cannot go to g5 because of the pawns on d6, h6. But let's continue. White gets the center, and that's exactly what white wanted by playing the King's Gambit. If we see in the beginning, there is central control by both sides. White controls e4 and d5, black controls e5 and d4. And once white plays f4, well, his pawn is basically distracted from the center and is no longer controlling those two squares. He's now sitting on f4, white is down a pawn, but the compensation is there. Knight f3, just enforcing that control over all four central squares. Never mind the pawn on f4, we'll get it back. Some people play g5, and I include myself in that bracket, is what I played in 2015 against the player I said, who has been playing the King's Gambit for years and years. d6, bishop c4, and h6. d4. Now we reach a position where white has complete central domination, may have given up a pawn, probably black wants to go ahead and play something like g5, because if you're going to give up the center, you want to hold on to the pawn, right? So bishop takes f4 is a definite threat. g5 is played. And now both king sides are fairly weak, and I'm assuming here that both sides want to kingside, queenside castle, but nope, they both kingside castle. Alright. Kingside castling, open file, semi-open file for the rook, although I'm very interested to know how he's going to take advantage of the central control. Bishop to g7 and g3. Never in my wildest dreams would I even consider playing a move like g3 in this position? Reverse Queen's Gambit, sort of. Well, exactly. What's my favorite opening? The Gaga Gambit. The new lines are with h4. Who cares about king safety anyway, Kappa? Well, you should. I think Pawn March Destroyer is begging to be banned. Imagine having wild dreams and you don't sleep. Well, I dreamt a lot of things last night, including some supernatural things. All the pawns and all the pieces I have blundered in my life came and haunted me. So after g3, black plays g4. I kind of like this for black. But here, of course, white is simply going to take a deep breath and think about this logically. What does white play here? Does white move the knight? Does white sacrifice the knight? What happens in this position? If I were to pass the baton on to you guys, chat, what would you do? Wow, screws. Wow. You would take on f7? Well, now we know Chess Chopin's style of play and why he should not be playing chess. Supernatural. Yeah, supernatural. What if g4? That's exactly what happened, Nicola. Black's king is stuck in the center. Alarm bells should be going off. True. Would you sack the knight? Probably not. Of course, you have to keep in mind you're playing against the world champion. If anything, sacrificing a pawn should be where you draw the line. Bishop takes f4 is the move. Chopin. Oh, I just won't say his name then. Call you chess. Okay. g4 and knight h4. So instead of giving up the knight, although I would understand your concern here for f3, which is exactly what was played. But after that, white simply decides to develop and says, well, you can have all the space you want on my king side. It's not that I worry about my king. As long as I have the center, you have nothing on me. Alright. Knight to c6 and bishop to e3. Normal developing moves here. Knight f6 and queen to d2. Basically telling black, well, you can't castle anymore. I've got all the focus on your h6 pawn, and just by playing queen d2, I've made it impossible for you to castle. I wonder if black will play h5 here. Probably not. He's got something else in mind. Although I don't quite understand this move. Do you? What is black's idea here, guys? What is black's idea here? Not d5? Well, don't give it away too quickly, Chess Chopin. Get in a cool move before resigning. Remember, white is gonna win this. Hey, Tamiji, how's it going? d5. Exactly. So, after knight takes e4, knight takes e4, d5. Wanting the piece back. So here, black is up 2 pawns. Black still has all 8 of their pawns. Can you believe it? All 8 of their pawns. So let's see what white decides to do here. Knight to c3. In all honesty, I would have saved my bishop. But here, what I'm assuming is he just wants to create some weaknesses for black. For instance, there are double pawns on the f file, there will be double pawns on the c file, and once again, he'll be the only one controlling the center. Bishop on g7 would probably be the only concern, but other than that, the king's safety is a problem. Rook e1 is coming in, and also the other rook to d1. It will be an absolute bloodbath in the center. So d takes c4 and rook e1. So rook a to e1, probably just to stop this contesting pawn on f3 from moving forward, or any kind of threats and tactics that loom. And now the threat is bishop takes h6, check. Trying to get that bishop on g7. We'll see here what black wants to do. Black decides to castle. And guys, I'm going to put this position in your hands once again. What do you think white will play? Do you think white will grab a pawn? What is the best move for white? Do we like activity over material? Do we prefer to play attacking moves first? Attacking moves first is always the way to go. And also another thing to keep in mind is that kind of concept of see a check, give a check. Don't listen to that. Not all checks are good. It's good to have a check at hand if needs be, but think about it like this. The threat is stronger than the execution. Those checks. Wow, screws. Nice, Sarah. Au revoir. I gotta go work. Unfortunate. Or fortunate, I don't know. If we play knight f5, the bishop on c8 will come and say hello to our knight on f5. Screws, are you okay? Rook takes pawn. We're not going to take the pawn on f3, because then we lose our rook. The pawn on g4 is protecting the pawn on f3. Keep that in mind. My room isn't blue anymore. It's only blue at night. It's blue in the night times. It becomes an RGB magical space. Am I okay? How much time do you have? I've got all the time. Tell me what's up. You okay? I'm confusion. Why are you confusion? Perpetual check is best? I don't know. Knight f5 is correct for black. What? Why are you confusion? I'm asking, what move would we make here for white? Would we take the pawn on h6? Or would we focus on rather playing something that is more aggressive? I like it. Everyone in YouTube chat is getting it. Everyone in YouTube chat is getting it. d5. Timmy G also got it. Knight takes e4. Well, it wasn't knight takes e4, but we're going to play d5 here. Yeah, d5 is the move. We're going to play d5. Good job. Threaten the queen. Well, we're threatening the knight on c6. Knight's got to move. Knight goes to e7. Of course, we're just forcing black to retreat here. Also removing one of the controllers of the center. And now we can go full force. Bishop takes h6 is the beginning of the end for black. Knight to g6, just covering up the king a little bit, but we don't really mind that. We're just going to capture, because that knight on c6, if we look back, the knight on c6 compared to the knight on h4, it's good to compare your pieces almost. You look at one of black's pieces, and similarly, you'll look at one of your own pieces and ask yourself, well, is my piece stronger than my opponent's? Is there a way for me to either get my piece to be more active than my opponent's piece, or maybe I can offer a trade of pieces, and then suddenly they lose their advantage. We lose our disadvantage. It's good. You choose Sarah's move. Sarah's appreciating your support. Is it what my mom tells me to? Are you okay, Sarah? Are you looking forward to going back home this year? D5, knight to e7, and bishop takes. So now we took. We got rid of our bad knight on h4 for the good knight. Good knight on c6. Capturing back, we may have opened up the f file, but also we're just removing a defender of the king. Bishop takes g7, king takes, and now we start invading black's space. In addition to that, we also gain a pawn back. This pawn was incredibly weak, and after this check, queen f6 and rook e7. Activity over material, everyone. If I think a lot causes you to run out of time, and if you just move fast, it causes you to blunder. That means you just have to increase the time control you're playing at. Because if you're playing 3 plus 0, that's not going to help anyone. It's definitely not going to help you. It may help your opponent to beat you. But if you want a decent game of chess, I would suggest anything rapid related. Okay, so rook to e7, king to g8, and now it's white to move. What are we going to play? What are we going to play? Honestly, the next move is not something I would play, but probably it's necessary. Very necessary. You fall asleep during rapid games? That's rough. So here, because the queen is attacking d4 as well as e7, we're going to trade queens. Alternatively, I would have taken a look at a move like queen c5, but probably there was just queen d6 to stop all of that. So here, queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and let's just admire the power of this rook on e7. And this goes without saying, a rook on the 7th rank is equivalent to winning a pawn, because this is where all the pawns are pretty much situated. So for black, it would be the 2nd rank, and for white, it would be the 7th rank. And if you have read Aaron Nimzovich, My System, he speaks about rook on the 7th, and he really goes in depth there. No one rook should have all that power. Well, it does. It does. Rook takes c7. You didn't read it? You should read it. Bishop to f5, attacking c2. Let's see how to deal with this. Rook takes c4, and rook e8. Look at how the bishop did not take on c2. He prefers to control the open file. Rook e8. h6. h3. But h3 is interesting. h3 is interesting. What would happen if black took? We can just take on f3, or I was even looking at the move, probably not as good as g4, but probably taking here is good. And then rook e1, king h2, and there's no rook e2. The knight is doing such a good job at defending e2, and it's the only open file. So when you can't go to the 2nd rank, you go to the 1st. And for white, if you can't go to the 7th rank, you go to the 8th. As simple as that. If your argument is, well, it's all being defended, try to remove the defender, or just control a rank as close as possible to the 7th. What are you saying, Pipette? Also g4 is coming. I was looking at g4. Exactly. g4 is coming. So let's go back. Bishop took on c2. And rook to d1. Rook d1. Is rook d1 okay? Why do I feel like this is okay for black? Hang on. There's something here? Oh, goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh, there's definitely something here. Do you guys see it? Do you see it? Good afternoon, Cappy. Oh, good morning. Yeah, sure. What is that, bet? Oh, you wrote it in Afrikaans, okay. I'm still trying to read it in English. But krag beteken iets anders. So, krag is power. It means something else. Like electricity power. Spassky was throwing for content. Used Google. I mean, it would be incredibly terrifying if you were fluent in Afrikaans. So, rook to d4. And the move here, and you got it right, Nicola, is f2. f2, the king has to move somewhere. Depends if it goes there. Just taking, and rook e1. And it's just completely winning for black. So, this is very interesting. Okay, but he doesn't see it. He takes on h3. King h2 and f2. King takes h3 and we get the same position, rook e1. Rook e1. How does white even deal with this? Take. Wow. How is he going to come back from this? He doesn't. Oh my goodness. This is going to be some hectic endgame play. I'm very intrigued. That knight is doing a lot. Wow. I don't know what the survival methods are here. So this move took it from... Okay, black was like -6 here, so like very winning. It's a rook and a pawn equivalent. But after b5, apparently not so good anymore. I see why. Why is b5 not a good move, guys? Why is b5 not a good move? King's Gambit is great. Exactly, Screws. Screws has got it. But what is the idea behind that, Screws? Nice. Wow. Okay, Screws, you are officially a grandmaster. Well done. Knight c5, king takes d6, and just picking up the rook. Thank you very much. The thing is, if the king goes anywhere else, the king goes to c8, we just play d7, king d8, and knight b7. Takes, and we get to the same position. Knight c5, then fork. Exactly. That's amazing. Such an easy move to miss. Amazing stuff. He probably resigned really soon after that, though. Knight comes back. I mean, knight does a good job at defending. The knight just has to chill somewhere. King comes back. And just advance the pawn. Let me see. Pushing the pawn. Push. And there's no checks for black. There's 0 checks for black. Knight comes back. Still a couple checks, okay. No problemo. Apparently still equal. I don't know how white wins this. Okay. These are some next level moves that honestly I don't even understand. What is going on? Was it a draw? No. This game was 88 moves long. Whoa, look at that move. Find the continuation. Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out here. So, find the continuation, guys. After King D8, find the continuation. It's early in Hawaii. That must be nice. Karpov had to watch game. Exactly. Queen B8, King D7, then what? Nice jam. Queen B8, King D7, Knight C5. And it's impossible to move the king, so you gotta take the knight. And you just a queen down. That's rough. That's amazing, Paulino. 3:45 a.m. That is insane. Wow. Thanks for being here. Glamdring forgot about today's stream. Oh my gosh. It's early in PE too. Come on, Babette. Alright, so that was a great game. Played by Boris Spassky versus Anatoly Karpov. Probably not as convincing as we kind of hoped it would be, but it was still nice. The next game we're going to take a look at was between Boris Spassky and Yasser Seiravan. Yasser Seiravan, as we know, is one of the top commentators at Chess24. He is, I think he did the previous, or he was the host of the previous leg of the Magnus Carlsen tour, I believe. And honestly, his stories are to die for. And I believe he's done a few courses on Chessable too, so I would recommend checking him out. But I didn't know that Yasser Seiravan played in a candidates tournament. Boris Spassky won the candidates tournament after this, and this game was played in 1985. King's Gambit, Glamdring's favorite opening too. Wow. Okay. Sure. He probably didn't forget though. He probably just didn't want to be here. Makes sense. No problem, Mr. Polino. Polino. Okay. E4, E5, F4. And Yasser Seiravan is like, okay, probably could tell a story about this game. I'm sure. And he would continue. I don't even want to try and imitate, because honestly, he's a god. Okay. Taking on F4, knight to F3, knight E7. Yasser decides to play knight E7 against this line. If Maria was a... Screws, don't say that. You're hurting my feelings. Hi, Dennis. Oh. Do I stream daily? Yes. Well, no. Sometimes. It depends. On different platforms too. Okay. So knight e7, d4, and d5. I like it. Knight c3. To be honest, I probably would have played e5 myself, but knight c3 seems like a logical way to go. Taking on e4, knight takes e4, and knight g6. h4. Queen e2, queen e7. king to f2. Someone explain this to me. Someone explain. What is going on? Why is queen takes e4 not possible here? Bishop b5. c6. Ah, because you're taking with check, okay. Because what I was looking at is take and queen takes, but it's check. Okay, makes sense. Right. Exactly. No, you're right. Okay. So we can't take king f2. What a wondrous move. Okay. Moving on. Bishop to g4. Somehow much better for white, of course. h5. Chasing the knight away. Knight doesn't have any square to go to, but to h4. And then we play bishop takes f4. Number 1. We get the pawn back. Number 2. Our king, as dodgy as it seems, is relatively safe due to our lead in development. And also we've kind of hampered black's development in a way because this bishop is not getting out anytime soon. It'll take 2 moves. Move the queen or the pawn and then move the bishop. Here we can just move our bishop 1 square, or it has all the range in the world, and we're fine. We're also threatening h4. Life is good. If we take on h4 and queen takes, well, I don't think that would happen. Okay, rook takes h4 and bishop takes f3, so probably we can't take the knight. For the next move, it would make sense to move the queen away and then capture the knight. So black is under a little bit of pressure. King f2 is development. There we go. Developing the king early, so you don't have to do it later. Exactly. Sarah's talking to a bot? Oh, right. Sarah wants to be the next Beyonce. Makes sense. Alright, so bishop to f4, knight c6, and bishop e5. Threatening d5, of course, or just threatening to take on c6, causing structural weaknesses, such as the double pawns that we have discussed in yesterday's masterclass. Long castle. The bravest move in the world. What does white play? What does white play, guys? I'm going to once again put this in your hands. If you were playing white pieces, if you were Bar Spassky, what would you do? Fair enough, Cappy. Alrighty. So have you come up with an answer and a reason for your answer? No guessing? Now our knight is hanging for real? Yes. This position is a mess. Does it remind you of some of your games? Take the rook. Take the knight. Exactly. Sarah's on the ball. We're gonna take the knight on c6. And the reason why is, number 1, the bishop is protecting the knight. Number 2, if we capture this knight, king safety is a huge problem for black. The king will have a lot more open diagonals and lines. And if we take a look in this position, we'll see that the b file is open. And also the diagonal here is a little bit alternative. Okay, queen d3, queen a6 is already something I'm looking at, and that's exactly what white did. Queen to d3, queen a6 is on the table, followed by knight c5 and mate. Depending on if the king wants to come back to the center, but what's the point? in castling when the king is just going to go back to the center. Right. The second S in Sarah's name stands for Spassky. Makes sense, screws. I knew it. The first S in Spassky stands for Sarah. Oh. So knight takes on f3, pawn takes, bishop retreats. And now we start. It all begins. It all begins. We're going to do exactly that. Queen a6, king b8, knight c5. And now we're threatening queen to b7, mate. Bishop c8 is the only saving move here. White to move. Let's go. White to move. Let's go. Queen a6. Nice, screws. That's exactly what was played. Beautiful. Screws. The first S in screws stands for Spassky. Queen takes c6. Rook takes d4. Look at that. Rook takes d4. What's next? Makes sense. Least active piece, guys. Least active piece. You're welcome, Sarah. Oh, wow, Pipette. Okay, Screws actually played this game. Rook e1, rook a to e1. To be specific, bishop takes... Oh, rook takes bishop f4. Look at that. Giving up the queen. Giving up the queen. Queen b5. King a8. Queen c6. Some do not hurry moves, of course. And then capturing on e7. Wow. Bishop takes and rook d1. Look at how white is utilizing all of their pieces right now. Rook d1, utilizing the rook, the queen, and the knight. And since black's queen is no longer on the board, the king on f2 is not in too much danger, still a little bit of danger because of the rooks and the bishops. Why those intermediate checks? It's a concept called do not hurry. So usually it is used to gain some time. If you are needing a few more seconds, if you have increments on the clock and you need a few more seconds, maybe you need to give the move to your opponent to just stall. That's a great way to go. He probably just checked to give the opponent something to do, so he gains a few seconds to think about the variation. Maybe he's low on time, so yeah. Shouldn't do that in bullet though. Uting. Why not just capture instead of making the king dance first? Because king dances are quite awesome. See a check, give a check. Don't listen to me. But like I said, it's that whole concept of do not hurry. For those of you who were at the masterclass yesterday, you can also Google the concept of do not hurry in chess. That early white king move was inspirational. Yeah, kings' lives matter. Rook to f6, attacking the queen, and probably after a move like queen b5 here, the rook will just swing over to b6, and the queen has no purpose there anymore. So knight d7 is great, getting rid of at least one bishop, because two bishops are just too powerful together. Rook goes to d8, and now we can give the check. King goes over to c8, and we're removing our pieces here, because the more we trading, the more powerful that queen becomes. And we just have to watch out, because a rook and a bishop could sometimes be sufficient compensation for a queen, not always. But I'm excited to see here how white kind of deals with this queen advantage. Of course, always giving a check and capturing the pawns. Right, makes sense. And after king g3, black resigns. The rook will have to retreat. If the rook captures on f3, the king will just take on g4. Makes sense. And then the rook will have to move again. But look at how powerful the queen is. The h5 pawn is going to run. And this is a winning endgame for white. So probably black just wanted to see it through for the next couple of moves to know where it's headed. And for the final game, which we probably will have to go a little bit quickly through, is the Immortal game versus Anderson and I'm going to get this wrong. Kisaritsky. In 1951, it was the Immortal game. And in a lot of the text that I've read about the King's Gambit, this game stood out in all of those articles. They spoke about the 1951 game between Anderson and Kisaritsky. Jagjit, of course I do. Watch out for fortresses. Yes, exactly. What's a Ritsky? It's crazy. Alison Kitsaritsky. You guys are such trolls. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry for calling you that, but in Twitch terms, it means someone is making jokes. Oh my goodness, no. Stop. Okay, I'm laughing too much internally. Okay, alrighty. So let's continue. Let's continue. Adolf Anderson versus Lionel Adalbert Bagration Felix. He has 5 names. Never trust a guy with 5 names. Kisaritsky. He has 5 names. Imagine having 5 names. That must be nice. You can choose between the names. Please call me this name. No, you can call me my 3rd name. No, my 4th name. Alrighty, let's start. e4, e5. f4 takes. Bishop c4, queen h4. We'll stop there. Aren't there kids' dolls called trolls? Just saying. They are. But I guess on Twitch it means something else. And also when you look at memes, the original memes were called trolls. Never trust a person with 3 names. Got it. Well, his full name is Planty McPlantface, so... Anyway. Bishop c4, queen h4 check, and king f1. This is all theory. b5, taking on b5, and knight to f6. Knight to c3, knight to f3, queen h6, and d3. Of course, we just want to play d3 to give the bishop some range, and also just attack the f4 pawn because that's the pawn that we gave up. Knight to h4, putting extra protection on that f4 pawn, and knight to h4. Queen to g5, knight to f5. Interesting. So the knight maneuvers to the f5 square when underdeveloped here on the queen side, and also the king is looking dodge. c6, g4. Wow. And I reckon after move 10 that this is still theory. I feel like I've seen this before. Maybe because it is the Immortal game, but also I feel like the ending is going to be super memorable. h4. I have seen this game before. I've gone over this game before. Okay. h4, queen to g6, h5, queen to g5. I want to know from you guys, what is the next move that was played by white? I will stop right there. There's even some notes in this game, which is awesome. Is from this move that black's defeat stems. Wilhelm Steinitz suggested in 1879 that a better move would be. But this game was played in 1851? 1879? Okay. The math checks out. Not c4. Look at the queen. The queen is very close to being trapped. We want to just zoom in on that. Very nice, Screws. Very nice, Osama. Nice. Screws, you've really improved a lot. Awesome stuff. So queen f3 is the move that was played. It's very difficult to stop. Bishop takes f4 here. So the knight retreats, actually, giving the queen some space to breathe. We're gonna play bishop takes f4 anyway, which is probably what you're looking at here. Queen to f6. And now we develop. So we got the pawn back with a lot of central control ahead in development. If we look at white, white has developed 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. Black has developed 1. We do not count the pawn moves as developing moves. Bishop to c5, putting pressure on the rook on g1, and knight to d5. Queen takes b2. I like this. I like it a lot. Okay, so now we're going to set up something, and I'm pretty sure some of you, / all of you, have seen this before. Bishop to d6. Not good for white, by the way. Not good for white, but he's trying something. Bishop takes g1. And here Wilhelm Steinitz instead suggested queen takes a1. Likely moves to follow king e2, queen b2, king d2, and bishop g1. But now, in this position, white decides to play e5, queen takes a1, king to e2, and knight to a6. The continuation is in your hands, guys. I want to know what you would play here for white. It's a very famous ending. I'm sure all of you have seen it before. But let's go. A pinzo with the knight. No, okay. So knight's fork, bishop's pin. The pin is mightier than the sword, and the bishop looks more like a sword than the knight does. Yeah, Jagjit, you should set that up for us. Why is Screws getting this so quickly? What is going on? Is there a GM behind that account? Good job. First move, knight g7. King d8. Good job. And now what? Knight c7 would have run into knight takes c7, and the knight on d5 is way stronger than a knight on a6, so we want to avoid exchanging that. Thanks, Screws. I appreciate the YouTube chat messages as well. This time, Twitch chat is getting the answers before YouTube chat. But I still feel like YouTube chat takes things a little bit more seriously, you know. What's the next move? What is the next move? Not queen f7? Something even better. So this is a mate in 2, by the way, so you want to look for checks first. I mean, that's a bit harsh, I think, Sarah. If you play bishop e7, the knight will just take. It's high time for a Screws masterclass, I agree. It's insane, he's just getting all the answers right. Nice, Calvin. Nice, Irish. It's hard to imagine a chat that could take things more seriously than we do. Sure. And Zuck has got it as well. Beautiful stuff. And that is why this is an immortal game, and I'm sure you guys have seen this before. Maybe in Puzzle Rush as well as possible. But Queen f6, sacrificing the queen, knight takes. And this allows for that beautiful move. Bishop to e7. Crisp, beautiful, divine. Gordon Ramsay would approve of that delicious move. Bishop to e7 mate. Sacrificing the queen like that. Honestly, if I got something like that in my game, I would take a screenshot of the position and frame it. It would be sitting against the wall. Someone would walk past and say, "What's this?" I say, "It's white to move. Try it out." And they would indulge in that beautiful delicacy. And once they solve it, they'll be like, "Wow, I feel tactically fulfilled. Thank you for such a wonderful tactical meal." I'll be like, "Right, true." IRL screenshot. I would see why you would approve. It is. Yeah, many, many years ago. 1851, the immortal game. Now we see why it's immortal. But the King's Gambit, like I said, is an acquired taste. You either like it or you don't. Or you try it out at first, ironically, and then it becomes a part of who you are. So I'm not saying that it's terrible, because at a club level, I'm sure right up till 21, 2200, it's incredibly playable. But beyond that, I'm sorry to say, you're on your own. It's worth a try. It's worth a dabble. I believe all openings that have a name are at least playable, slightly playable. I would never say play a dubious opening as one of your main openings in your repertoire. Rather stick to something a little bit more solid. And, once you reach the middle game and it's all equality, that's what you want. Maybe you want a slight advantage. Then you go a little further and look at some Grandmaster games. But beyond that, chess is the most complex game. I don't know if this is factual or opinionative, but it's the most complex game out there. And I really hope you enjoyed this. It was fun hanging out with you guys, and I'll see you really, really soon. Have a great day, have a great morning, afternoon, evening, depending where you are. See you very, very soon. Bye, guys. When do we see you? Oh, I'll answer that question. You'll probably see me next week. On CoChess, you'll see me next week. The masterclasses will continue, I believe. There are some exciting things that CoChess is planning. So if you want, you could save cochess.com as a bookmark and just check in every now and then. And if you enjoyed the masterclass, if you attended yesterday, do leave a review. Or also, if you're watching on YouTube, leave an awesome comment. I really love reading those if they're critical and instructive. Or constructive criticism is something I always appreciate, somewhere where I can improve. I don't mind that either. But thank you guys for being here. See you soon.